My name is Tura Arutura Mazaramunda Mpepo. I'm a living soul passionate about culture, arts, and people. I've been in Ireland since 16th of July, 1993. I've lived mostly Belfast and Ballygowan and the west of Ireland, Donegal, in different segments, different portions of my life. But mostly I would say I've been a county down man most of the time. Culturally, even in terms of language, there's a big difference between Belfast and Donegal, even though it's all part of Ulster. The cultural scene in Donegal, particularly where I was spending quite a considerable amount of time by Gweedore, there is a thriving Gaelic language community there, culture, music, art, a way of being that is quintessentially Irish and Gaelic in its essence. Also, the way people there, the pace of life in Donegal is considerably different from Belfast. And I would say the language, even the way people speak compared to Belfast, and then even it's so different because you're also quite close to the sea, Donegal. There is something magical about Donegal, different parts of Donegal. I mean, same with Belfast, there's some magical places, but yeah, there is such an added difference between Belfast, Antrim, so to speak, and Donegal. I just feel at home when I'm with my family, those I love, and I can be, you know, I say this because being in Zimbabwe before, I have felt like a stranger in my own country of birth. And so even when I've gone to Malawi, where my grandmother was born, I've almost felt the same way. And also in Mozambique, where my grandfather was born, I felt the same, like almost like a stranger amongst my own people. So it's more so, I feel like a citizen of the world. You know, wherever I go, whether it's Berlin, whether it's New York, I feel like the ground I'm walking on, I'm a part of as much as the next person. And that sort of a liberated feeling of being a citizen of the world and not binding myself to any physical, geographical narrative. So my experience of the Black Lives Matter movement in Ireland began with the murder of George Floyd. And even before then, I had heard, you know, after the murder of Rihanna and a few other young Black males, I'd heard of the Black Lives movement, but hadn't really taken much interest in terms of engaging with it within an Irish context. And it wasn't until the 3rd of June where the community, in response to the murder of George Floyd, organized protests in Belfast. And I went, my daughters went, and we went in solidarity with George Floyd's family and all those who desire for a racism-free world, really, you know? So we went, and I went with the hope that I would be able to share my solidarity and revulsion over what had happened to George Floyd and an end to this type of brutality to our race of people. It was at the Belfast City Hall rally that members of my community asked me to speak based on my past experiences in the Irish language movement. I've been quite involved in the past with the Irish Language Act movement, Crim Jarrag, and my experiences with fighting for language rights translated to fighting for equality rights for Black people, and particularly people of African descent in Ireland. So I spoke, and people seemed to correspond well to what I was saying. And the key message was that we needed to come together, Black, white, people of all races, men, women, and children. We needed to come together and organize ourselves to be an effective voice for the equity of our humanity, to be the key essence that happens throughout our lives in terms of legislation that, you know, equality, equity, and justice for all must be the overarching desire by our politicians. And on the 4th of June, I was contacted by the organizers of United Against Racism. They had been at the Belfast City Hall event, and they were wondering if I could speak at their rally on the 6th of June. They thought my contribution would be worthwhile. So I agreed, and that's how I became involved with the Black Lives Matter movement, as a movement that is loosely organized, that is a movement at grassroots where there's no particular leader, so to speak, of the movement. There is people, grassroots people, who are making their voices heard. They organized the event to be a social distancing event. On the day, I took part in the event and spoke at the Belfast Custom House Square. That was really a seminal moment in terms of race relations and policing Black Lives Matter and Black people and people of color during COVID, but also it also exposed what type of policing our community has been experiencing over the last few years. I've been here for 28 years, and I have seen gradually things get worse for people of color. I am wholeheartedly, fully involved in the emancipation of those who are discriminated by this discriminatory system of governance, which permeates all our lives in Ireland, not just the North, but also in the South. A culture and tradition of abuse is at the heart of the way that we, the vulnerable people, not just Black, white, or travelers, but mothers who have been subjected to systematic abuse. And this is the culture that we must challenge. And it's not just about Black or white, it's really about humanity and the tradition which has been allowed to go on for so long unchecked, because we have all become normalized, submerged into an oppressive system of government, which puts the elite at the top and the vulnerable at the bottom. And the thing about oppression of Ireland dates back, even if we go to the Cromwellian Wars, and Oliver Cromwell was a ghastly man who came to Ireland intending to subdue and colonize and control by way of brutalizing Irish people. And the chronicles of Oliver Cromwell in Ireland are well documented. It was sheer cruelty and brutality, whole villages of men, women, and children burnt, killed, chopped to the stake. And that is the experience of Ireland since Britain took an interest in colonizing Ireland. And this is the legacy of Ireland. So Ireland knows what it is to be colonized. I call Ireland Project A. Project A, because this is where England practiced its colonial strategies. And when it worked in Ireland, then they were transported to the other countries. So the plantations of Ireland became the plantations of Barbados, the plantations of Haiti, the plantations of the New World. I guess Africa and Ireland have been always inextricably linked, because Ireland has been the colonial project where the British first ran a colony and plantations. So Ireland, America, Britain, and Africa are intertwined. Ireland is so much a part of the whole slave narrative, the whole colonial narrative. And for that reason, it's always going to be inextricably affected by what happens in those countries. Culturally, I think Ireland is a giant globally. there's no other country that has a festival like St. Patrick's Day where the whole world goes green like. So in terms of its cultural footprint, Ireland has a big footprint. I mean, if you see the success of bands like U2 or The Script, you know, bands from Ireland, or, you know, there is a cultural packing order which puts the British, Americans, and the Irish, this English hegemony at the top of all other cultures. And this cultural imperialism permeates every other culture in the world. And it is one of the most toxic policies of neo-colonialism, which we currently have to challenge and always have to challenge, and rehumanize this idea that Anglo-Saxon culture is high culture and other cultures are less important. And unfortunately, cultural imperialism is only a brainchild of the racist theories that allowed slavery to happen and then promoted slavery and imperialism over the time to the point where it is toxic, the way culture is managed within Ireland, Britain, and America in terms of other minority cultures. It is tough for people who don't fit into the narrow-minded view of the world of these elite people. Then we have a lot of people on the outskirts, on the edges of cultural society, because there is this cultural packing order, which is corrosive and exclusive and denies access to those who are doing alternative cultural things, you know? Well, as an artist, I think it is important that art is a vehicle and a gift that has been given to us to affect and project and relate what we are experiencing. And as an artist, I think it is a responsibility for us to articulate what we are seeing and experiencing and living, so that other people without access to it can feel it and experience it and live it. And so we must continue to express the, you know, art is truth, reality. And so we must be honest and authentic in our expression of what is happening to us, the lived experience of the people who are being targeted, the hostile environment being created. My passion for Irish dance and language, I can sum it up as Esa spraga me machina de lacht volom ha na gaelig na. Anirat and strachoj chan eigna a cur orne heen agus ta hira alle hoes again. Nilan gina gyal, nilan gina gorum, Catholic Protestant atomic kanch ak orne heen machina dinne. So my passion for the Irish language, culture, and dance is really about my passion for the essence of our humanity. And within the language and the culture, and particularly dance, and particularly the poetry of dance, is the essence of our people. Within the culture, the sport, the dance, the music, the folklore is our essence as people. And without those, we are not the same people. This is what imperialism tried to destroy and failed in Ireland. And my passion for that culture and language is my passion for the essence of Irishness, that undying love and passion for freedom, and ultimately the wearing of your heart on your sleeve, because the Irish people, they wear their heart on their sleeves. What you see is what you get. And that, I believe, is a gift that Irish people have given to the world in terms of the celebration of Irish culture, and also this undying passion for freedom despite continuous oppression and subjugation. Irish language and culture lives on and thrives, was banned, but now it's back and it's alive, and it's like a phoenix. And this is a testimony for all people oppressed that, you know, the Irish can do it. So can we. The Cubans and the Irish, you know, the South Africans and the Irish, the Zimbabweans and the Irish, the people in Venezuela and the Irish, the oppressed and the Irish, the Palestinian movement and the Irish. So in terms of Ireland's place, in terms of the emancipation of mankind, Ireland has that gift of unwavering desire for freedom, which has seen Ireland, against all odds, maintain its language, its culture, its effervescence. And that is a gift, a testimony to the nature of the Irish spirit, which is a spirit which is in all people on earth. But somehow, living in Ireland for 28 years, I have discovered that. And that is the gift of freedom that Ireland has given me, that undying passion for freedom and celebration of life.